Commander Lee Jun stared at the dark space ahead through the bridge window of the Harmony. 3 months into their deep space mission, his crew had found nothing but empty systems and dead rocks. The exploration vessel was small, carrying only 42 people, but it was humanity's furthest reach into unknown territory. "Commander," called Communications Officer Park Day from his station, "I'm picking up something strange. It sounds like a distress signal." June turned around quickly. In 3 years of deep space exploration, they had never encountered another living species. Earth scientists always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Maybe today they would find out. "Put it through the speakers," June ordered. Bridge filled with a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It was musical, like singing, but filled with sadness and fear. The universal translator tried to work with the alien language, producing broken words and phrases. Help. Dying. Children. Please. Anyone. The crew looked at each other with wide eyes. They were hearing the voice of another intelligent species for the first time in human history. And that species was in trouble. "Where is the signal coming from?" June asked. "About 6 hours away at full speed," answered Navigator Kim Tae. "It's coming from near that red dwarf star." June made his decision quickly. "Set course for the signal, maximum speed." Dr. Yoon Hai, the ship's medical officer, came to the bridge an hour later. She had been studying the alien transmissions with Park Mina, the xenobiologist. "Commander, we think we understand part of their language now," Dr. Yoon said. "They're refugees. Their world was destroyed somehow. They have injured people, including children." Park Mina nodded. "The vocal patterns suggest they're herbivores. Peaceful. They're not asking for weapons or military help. They just need food and medical supplies." When the Harmony arrived at the coordinates, they found a ship unlike anything in human imagination. It was grown rather than built, with smooth organic curves that looked like a giant seed floating in space. Parts of its hull showed damage from some kind of chemical burns. "My God," whispered Kim Tae. "It's beautiful." The alien ship was 3 times larger than the Harmony, but clearly in bad shape. Sections of it flickered with dying lights, and atmosphere leaked from several holes in its side. "They're losing life support," reported Engineer Choi Soo. "That ship won't last another day." "Open a channel," June ordered. The main screen showed the interior of the alien ship. The being that appeared was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large golden eyes. Its face was gentle, almost deer-like, with no visible teeth when it spoke. Behind the alien, June could see others moving around what looked like a medical area. "I am Thylos, captain of the refuge ship Gentle Current," the alien said through the translator. "Are you the ones who answered our call for help?" "I'm Commander Lee Jun of the human vessel Harmony," June replied. "We received your distress signal. What happened to your ship?" Thylos closed his golden eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with deep sadness. "Our world, Velthara, was invaded by the Corvan Empire 2 cycles ago. They wanted the rare crystals beneath our soil. When we refused to give up our sacred sites, they poisoned our rivers and burned our forests. Millions of my people died. Those who survived became refugees, scattered across many ships." The bridge crew listened in horror. They had heard of wars and invasions in human history, but seeing the results firsthand was different. "How many survivors are on your ship?" Dr. Yoon asked. 837, Thylos answered, "including 112 younglings. Many are sick from the poisons. Our medical supplies ran out 3 days ago." June looked around at his crew. They all knew what he was thinking. The Harmony carried enough supplies for 42 people for 6 months. They could not possibly support 800 additional beings for long, but Park Mina stepped forward. "Commander, we have to try. Look at them, they're dying." Dr. Yoon nodded. "We can synthesize basic nutrients for herbivores. It won't be much, but it might keep them alive until we find help." Engineer Choi Soo was already checking his systems. "I can transfer power to help with their life support. We'll be on emergency power, but we can manage." June made the decision that would change human history. "Thylos, we're going to help you," he said. Prepare to receive our medical team and supplies. The next few hours were chaos. Dr. Yoon and her medical staff worked alongside Velothi healers to treat the sick refugees. The Velothi children were the worst affected, their small bodies too, weak to fight off the lingering poisons from their destroyed world. Park Mina discovered that human food synthesizers could produce simple plant proteins that the Velothi could digest. It was not their natural food, but it would keep them alive. The crew of the Harmony gave up their own meal portions to help feed the refugees. Engineer Kim Tae worked with a Velothi technician named Quen to repair the failing life support systems on the Gentle Current. Despite the language barrier, they found that universal principles of engineering allowed them to work together. "Your people are very kind," Quen told Kim Tae through the translator. "We have traveled past 17 different species since leaving our world. All of them turned us away. You are the first to help." Kim Tae felt a tight feeling in her chest. "We couldn't just leave you to die." "Many species could," Quen replied sadly. "Many did." 3 days later, the immediate crisis was over. The Velothi ship was stable, and the refugees were no longer in danger of dying. But they still had no permanent home and no way to sustain themselves long-term. June called a meeting with his senior staff. "We have a problem," he said. "Command expects us back in 4 months. We're supposed to survey 12 more systems. But these people need long-term help." "There's a possible solution," Park Mina said. "I've been talking with Thylos. There's an uninhabited system about 2 weeks from here. The 4th planet might be suitable for Velothi life with some basic terraforming." "That would take months of work," Choi Soo pointed out. "Command will court-martial us for abandoning our mission." Dr. Yoon spoke quietly. "Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than following orders." June looked at each of his officers. He saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. "Set course for the system Park Mina mentioned," he ordered. "We're going to help our new friends find a home." As the Harmony and the Gentle Current flew together toward an uncertain future, neither species knew they had just taken the first step toward changing the galaxy forever. The bond formed between humans and Velothi in those desperate days would grow into something that would reshape worlds and redefine what it meant to be civilized in the universe. Behind them, space was empty and cold. Ahead, 2 species flew together toward hope. 3 months had passed since the Harmony helped the Velothi refugees find their new home. Commander Lee Jun faced a military tribunal for abandoning his mission, but the story of humanity's first contact with aliens had spread across Earth. Public opinion supported his actions and the charges were dropped. Meanwhile, in the deep space between stars, disaster struck again. The colony ship New Seoul drifted helplessly in the void, its massive engines dead and cold. Captain Seo Min stood on the bridge, looking at status reports that grew worse by the hour. 50,000 colonists filled the ship's holds, all hoping to start new lives on the distant world of Haven. "Engineering report," Captain Seo called. "Chief." Engineer Choi Bin climbed onto the bridge, his face covered in grease and exhaustion. "The fusion cores are completely burned out, Captain. We pushed them too hard trying to avoid that radiation storm last week. The backup systems are failing too. How long do we have? Life support will hold for maybe 6 weeks. Food supplies will run out in 4. Choi Bin sat down heavily in a chair. "We're too far from any human colony for rescue. Even if Earth sent help today, it would take 3 months to reach us." Captain Seo closed her eyes. 50,000 people. Men, women, children, families like that of agricultural specialist Han Sol, who had brought her 3 young daughters on this journey to find a better life. All of them depending on her to find a solution that did not exist. "Send out a general distress call on all frequencies," she ordered. "Maybe someone will hear us." Communications Officer Park Wan shook his head sadly. "Captain, we're in empty space. The nearest inhabited system is 8 light-years away. No one comes through this region." But Park Wan was wrong. 2 days later, sensors detected multiple ships approaching fast. Captain Seo rushed to the bridge, hoping against hope that somehow Earth had sent a rescue fleet. Instead, she saw something impossible. The ships were grown, not built. Organic curves and flowing lines that could only belong to one species. Velothi ships, whispered navigator Kim Jun. How did they find us? The main screen activated, showing a familiar face. Thylos, the Velothi captain they had heard about in the reports from Commander Jun's mission. His golden eyes were filled with concern. Captain Seo Min of the human vessel New Soul. Thylos said through the translator, "We received your distress call. We have come to help." Captain Seo felt her heart racing. "Thylos, we remember you. Commander Jun told us about your people. But how are you here? Your new world is on the other side of the sector." "We monitor all space channels for human voices," Thylos replied. "When we heard your call for help, every available ship left immediately. We could not let our friends die when we had the power to save them. But you barely have enough resources for your own people," Captain Seo protested. "We heard your new world is still being terraformed." Thylos made a gesture that might have been the Velothi version of a smile. "You gave us life when we were dying. Now we give life back to you." The next few hours brought revelation after revelation. The Velothi had not come empty-handed. Their ships carried something precious beyond. Measure Quen, the Velothi engineer who had worked with the Harmony crew, came aboard with a team of technicians. They brought with them crystalline cores unlike anything humans had ever seen. The crystals glowed with soft blue light and hummed with energy. "These are heartstones from our old world," Quen explained to Chief Engineer Choi Bin. "We saved them when we fled Velthara. They are the most sacred things our people possess." Choi Bin examined one of the crystals with his instruments. The readings made no sense. "The energy output is incredible. But how do they work?" "They amplify and focus. Natural forces," Quen said. "In our ships, one crystal powers everything. In your ships, they could do much more." Young Velothi engineer Nix worked alongside Choi Bin's daughter, Lee Hai, who had joined her father in the engine room. Despite the language barrier, the two young engineers communicated through shared understanding of their work. "Look at this," Lee Hai called to her father. "When we connect the crystal to our fusion chamber, it makes everything more efficient. The power output increases by 300%. Nix nodded excitedly. Heartstones remember the harmony of Velthara. They bring balance to all energy systems. But installing the crystals was not simple. The New Soul's engines were designed for human technology. Integrating alien crystals required completely rebuilding major sections of the ship's power systems. The work took 2 weeks. Velothi and human engineers worked around the clock, sharing tools, techniques, and knowledge. Language barriers disappeared as both species found ways to communicate through the universal language of engineering. Agricultural specialist Han Sol found herself working with Velothi botanist Alos to understand how the crystals affected biological systems. Her 3 daughters played with young Velothi children in the ship's gardens while the adults worked. "The crystals make plants grow faster and stronger," Han Sol observed. "Our food production could increase dramatically." Alos gestured toward the growing vegetables. "Heartstones carry the life song of our world. They remember how things should grow in perfect harmony." Dr. Yoon-hae, who had joined the New Soul as senior medical officer, worked with Velothi healers to study how the crystals affected human biology. The results were remarkable. "They seem to promote healing and reduce stress on biological systems," she reported to Captain Seo. "Patients recover faster when near the crystals. Even minor injuries heal more quickly." But the most amazing discovery came from physicist Dr. Kang Wu. He found that the crystals did not just provide power. They enhanced every system they touched, making technology work better than its original design specifications. "It's like they understand the purpose of each machine and help it achieve that purpose more perfectly," he explained to the assembled scientists. "They're not just energy sources, they're intelligence amplifiers." On the 15th day, Chief Engineer Choi Bin stood before the new engine array. 20 Velothi heartstones glowed within specially designed housings, connected to the New Soul's power grid through hybrid human Velothi technology. "Beginning engine startup sequence," he announced. The fusion chambers ignited smoothly, but the power readings climbed far beyond normal levels. The engines that had been dead for weeks now produced more energy than they had ever generated when new. All systems operating at 150% of design specifications, reported engineer Nix through the translator. Heartstones are singing in harmony with your machines. Captain Seo felt tears in her eyes as she watched the status displays turn from red to green. 50,000 lives had been saved by the generosity of people who had barely escaped extinction themselves. She opened a channel to Thylos. "We can never repay you for this gift." Thylos made that gesture that might have been a smile. "Commander June's people shared their food when we were starving. They gave their own beds so our children could rest. They risked their careers to help us find a home. These crystals are the smallest possible repayment for human kindness." "But these are your most precious possessions," Captain Seo protested. "Friendship is more precious than crystals," Thylos replied, "and friendship shared grows stronger, like heartstones singing together in harmony." As the new soul resumed its journey toward haven, now powered by Velothi heartstones, both species learned something important. The crystals were not just a gift of technology. They were a symbol of trust between two peoples who had chosen to help each other in times of desperate need. Behind them, the Velothi ships prepared to return to their new world. Ahead, the new soul carried 50,000 humans toward their new home, powered by the grateful hearts of alien friends. 5 years had passed since the new soul incident, and the friendship between humans and Velothi had grown stronger. Captain Seo-jin commanded the research vessel Discovery as it approached the Velothi colony world of New Velthara. Her mission was to study the Heartstones and learn how they could benefit both species. "Visual contact with New Velthara," announced Navigator Park Yeon from her station. "The planet looks incredible." Through the bridge windows they could see a world transformed. What had been a barren rock 5 years ago was now covered in green forests and blue oceans. Cities grew like flowers across the landscape, their organic architecture blending perfectly with nature. "The terraforming is complete ahead of schedule," observed Dr. Kang Woo, the Discovery's lead physicist. "Our models said it would take 20 years to make this world habitable." Communications Officer Lee Dan received an incoming message. "Captain, we're being hailed by the Velothi Council. They're inviting us to land at the main research facility." The Discovery sat down in a clearing surrounded by singing trees. The Velothi had grown their buildings from living wood, creating structures that were both functional and beautiful. Thylos, now serving as the colony's science coordinator, met them at the landing pad. "Welcome to New Velthara," Thylos said, his golden eyes bright with joy. "We have much to show you." Dr. Kang Woo and his research partner, Velothi scientist Quen, walked through laboratories that seemed more like gardens. Heartstones of various sizes hummed with energy, each one serving a different purpose in the research facility. "We have learned much about the Heartstones since settling here," Quen explained. "They are not just sources of power. They are memory crystals that store the patterns of life itself." Professor Lim Na, the Discovery's terraforming specialist, studied charts showing New Velthara's rapid development. "How did you transform the planet so quickly?" Velothi botanist Elos guided her to a greenhouse where impossible things were happening. Plants grew visibly as they watched, reaching maturity in hours instead of months. Barren soil turned fertile before their eyes. "Heartstones remember how Velthara was before the Corvin poisoned it," Elos said. "When we place them in soil, they help the earth remember how to live." The breakthrough came when graduate student Oh Min was working late in the laboratory. She was studying how Heartstones affected human technology when she noticed something strange. The crystals seemed to respond to biological signals as well as mechanical ones. "Dr. Kang," she called excitedly, "come look at this." The readings showed that Heartstones could amplify not just machines, but living processes too. When placed near seeds, the crystals accelerated growth. Near injured tissue, they promoted healing. Near diseased plants, they restored health. "It's like they understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy patterns," Oh Min explained. "They enhance what should be growing and correct what shouldn't be." Dr. Kang stared at the data in amazement. "This changes everything. If we can understand how this works, we could heal entire ecosystems." The joint research team worked for months to understand the Heartstone's biological effects. Human technology combined with Velothi knowledge created new instruments that could measure things no one had imagined before. They discovered that heartstones generated what they called bioresonance fields. These fields could read the genetic patterns of living things and help them achieve their optimal state of health and growth. Think of it like a universal healing song, Quen explained to the research team. The heartstones sing the melody of perfect life, and all living things try to harmonize with that song. First Counselor Bay Rim arrived from Earth to observe the research personally. She had been skeptical about spending so much money and resources on alien technology, but the results spoke for themselves. "Show me what this bioresonance can actually do," she demanded. Professor Lim Na led her to a test site where they had been experimenting with damaged land. Half of a dead forest had been treated with bioresonance technology. The difference was striking. The treated area was green and alive, while the untreated side remained barren. "We can restore entire continents with this technology," Professor Lim Na explained. "Deserts can become forests. Polluted lakes can become clean again. Dead soil can live again." Engineer Go Yoon had been working on scaling up the technology for planetary use. Her design showed massive installations that could project bioresonance fields across thousands of square kilometers. "The energy requirements are enormous," she admitted to Counselor Bay. "But the heartstones make it possible. One large crystal can power a bioresonance array for years." The Velothi were amazed by human engineering. Their people understood the heartstones intuitively, but humans approached them with mathematical precision that revealed new possibilities. Young Velothi researcher Yith worked alongside Oh Min to develop portable bioresonance devices. These small units could heal injuries, purify water, or restore small areas of damaged land. "Humans think in straight lines and exact numbers," Yith observed. "Velothi think in circles and flowing patterns. Together we see the complete picture." The research facility buzzed with activity as both species worked together. Language was no longer a barrier. Scientists from both cultures shared ideas through mathematics, diagrams, and the universal language of discovery. Dr. Yoon Hae, now specializing in bioresonance medicine, made remarkable discoveries about human health. The technology could cure diseases, repair genetic damage, and even slow aging. "The applications seem limitless," she reported to Counselor Bay. "We're essentially learning to speak the same language that life uses to organize itself." But the most important discovery came from studying how heartstones formed. Deep beneath New Velthara's surface, new crystals were growing. The planet itself was learning to create these miraculous structures. "The heartstones are alive," Quen announced at a joint research meeting. "They grow and reproduce and adapt. Each planet that hosts them eventually learns to make its own." This revelation changed everything. Bioresonance technology was not just a tool. It was a form of life that could spread from world to world, teaching planets how to heal themselves. Counselor Bay made her decision. "We're establishing the Restoration Initiative. Earth will provide the engineering and resources. The Velothi will provide the biological knowledge. Together, we'll offer this technology to any world that needs healing." As news of the breakthrough spread across human space, requests for help began arriving from other species. The galaxy was full of damaged worlds, poisoned ecosystems, and dying planets. Captain Seo Jin stood on the bridge of the Discovery as it prepared to depart New Velthara. The research phase was complete. Now came the real work of sharing their discoveries with the universe. "Set course for the Thekri system," she ordered. "It's time to begin the healing." Behind them, New Velthara continued to grow and flourish, a living example of what could be accomplished when two species chose cooperation over competition. Ahead lay a galaxy full of worlds waiting for the gift of renewal. The message reached New Velthara through an old Velothi emergency beacon that had been silent for 7 years. Deep beneath the poisoned surface of their original homeworld, survivors still lived in underground cities, waiting for death or salvation. Environmental. Coordinator Namyu read the translated message with tears in her eyes. Elder Vex reports that 12,000 Velothi are still alive on Velthara. They've been living in sealed chambers, eating synthesized food and breathing filtered air. Thylos, now elderly but still strong, felt his heart racing at the news. My brother Vex lives. He stayed behind to care for those too weak to travel. We thought they were all dead. The decision to attempt a planetary restoration was not made lightly. Velthara had been poisoned by 7 years of Corvin industrial waste. The atmosphere was toxic. The oceans were acid. The soil was dead for kilometers deep. The scale is beyond anything we've attempted, warned Chief Engineer Choi Bin. We would need to deploy bioresonance arrays across 3 continents and 2 ocean basins. But Dr. Kang Wu had been studying the problem for months. The heartstones from Velthara are more powerful than any others we've found. They remember their home, world perfectly. If we can get enough of them back to the planet, the bioresonance effect should be exponentially stronger. The restoration fleet assembled at New Velthara consisted of 40 ships from both species. Human engineering vessels carried massive bioresonance arrays. Velothi life ships brought millions of seeds, spores, and genetic samples saved from the original world. Captain Lee Jun, who had been promoted after his role in First Contact, commanded the flagship Harmony 2. As the fleet approached the dead system where Velthara orbited its dying star, the scale of destruction became clear. Sensors show atmospheric toxicity at lethal levels, reported Science Officer Park Ho. Radiation readings are off the charts. The Corvin really did their best to destroy this world. Writer and documentarian An Su recorded everything through the ship's cameras. Her job was to preserve this historic moment for future generations. What they were attempting had never been done before. We're trying to bring a planet back from the dead, she spoke into her recorder. If this works, it will prove that no world is beyond saving. The underground cities were located using deep penetration scanners. Human drilling teams worked with Velothi tunnel singers to create safe passages to the surface. The survivors they found were weak but alive. Elder Vex embraced his brother Thylos for the first time in 7 years. The old Velothi had grown thin and pale, but his golden eyes still held hope. We kept the deep archives safe, Vex said. Every plant, every animal, every microorganism that lived on Velthara. We preserved their patterns in crystal memory. Environmental engineer Go Yoon studied the archived genetic data with amazement. This is the complete biological blueprint of an entire world. We can restore not just the ecosystem, but recreate it exactly as it was. The restoration process began with the oceans. Massive barges deployed chains of heartstones across the ocean floors. The crystals began their work immediately, breaking down toxins and neutralizing acids. Marine biologist Jung Ho watched the readings from the first test site. The pH is changing. Salinity is returning to normal levels. The water is becoming clear. But the real test came when they introduced the first life forms. Velothi sea singers, microscopic organisms that had been the foundation of Velthara's ocean ecosystem, were released near the heartstone arrays. Bioresonance is working, reported Velothi scientist Zeth from the monitoring station. The sea singers are not just surviving, they're multiplying rapidly. On land, the process was more complex. The poisoned soil had to be neutralized, layer by layer. Human terraforming machines worked alongside Velothi earth singers to break up contaminated ground and replace it with clean material. Professor Lim Na coordinated the largest terraforming operation in galactic history. Teams worked across 6 time zones, deploying bioresonance arrays and planting the first seeds of new life. The heartstones are resonating in harmony, she reported to the command ship. The bioresonance field is spreading faster than our models predicted. The first signs of success came after 30 days. Patches of green began appearing around the restoration sites. The air started to clear as new plants began producing oxygen. Look at this, called engineer Kim So from her monitoring station. The planet is healing itself. Areas we haven't even treated yet are starting to recover. Dr. Kang Wu studied the readings with wonder. The heartstones are teaching the planet how to be alive again. The bioresonance field is spreading through the planetary crust itself. Month by month, Velthara transformed. Poisoned rivers ran clear, dead forests sprouted with new growth. Animals that had been extinct for 7 years were recreated from genetic memory and released into restored habitats. Ansu documented each stage of the transformation. Her recordings showed empty wastelands becoming gardens, toxic swamps becoming clear lakes, barren mountains becoming forests. "It's like watching the planet remember how to live," she recorded. "The Heartstones are singing a song of life that grows stronger every day." The most dramatic moment came when they restored the Singing Groves, Velthara's most sacred sites. These ancient forests had been the first targets of Corvan destruction. Elder Vex stood among the first saplings to emerge. From the restored soil, the young trees swayed in the breeze, creating the melodic sounds that had given the groves their name. "The song of our ancestors lives again," he whispered. "Velthara remembers how to sing." The restoration took 2 full years, but the results exceeded everyone's expectations. The planet that emerged was not just healed, but more beautiful and alive than it had ever been. Bioresonance efficiency is at 140% of original ecosystem parameters, reported Chief Scientist O Min. "Velthara is not just restored, it's better than before." The Heartstones had done more than heal the damage. They had optimized every biological system, creating perfect harmony between all living things. Forests grew taller, oceans teemed with more life, and the air itself seemed to sparkle with vitality. The celebration when the first shuttle landed with returning refugees was visible from orbit. Millions of Velothi who had scattered across the galaxy came home to a world reborn. Elder Vex spoke to the assembled crowds in the restored capital city. "7 years ago, we thought our world was dead forever. Today we stand in a paradise created by the friendship between our people and the humans." But the most important moment came when a human child and a Velothi youngling planted a tree together in the rebuilt Singing Grove. The small tree immediately began to hum with the planet's life song, adding its voice to the growing chorus. Thylos turned to Captain Lee Jun as they watched the ceremony. "You have given us more than our world back. You have shown the galaxy that death is not forever, that friendship can work miracles." "We learned from you," Lee Jun replied. "You taught us that helping others helps ourselves. This restored world proves that kindness grows when it's shared." As the restoration fleet prepared to return to New Velthara, they carried with them something more valuable than any technology. They had proven that no damage was permanent, no world was beyond hope, and no friendship was too small to change the universe. The Great Restoration, as it came to be known throughout the galaxy, was not just about saving one planet. It was about proving that life, when given the chance and the help of friends, would always find a way to triumph over destruction. The news of Velthara's restoration spread across the galaxy faster than any spaceship. Within months of the Great Restoration's completion, the Galactic Council chambers on Neutral Station Harmony Point buzzed with excited conversations in dozens of languages. Ambassador Moonji represented humanity at the emergency session. She had been chosen for her skill in diplomatic negotiations, but nothing had prepared her for what happened when she entered the Great Hall. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy rose to their feet as she walked to the human delegation's seat. Species that had never shown respect to anyone applauded. The ovation lasted for 5 full minutes. "The chair recognizes Ambassador Moonji of the Human Systems Alliance," announced the council speaker, a crystalline being whose body reflected rainbow light. Moonji stood, feeling the weight of galactic history on her shoulders. "Honored representatives, I come before you not to speak of human achievements, but of what can be accomplished when species work together in friendship." The first to respond was Counselor Thekri Prime, representing a species whose homeworld's oceans had been poisoned by industrial accidents centuries ago. The aquatic being's translator converted their subsonic speech into common language. "Our world dies more each year. Our children are born with genetic damage. We have studied your restoration techniques. Will humans help us, as you helped the Velothi?" Before Moonji could answer, dozens of other representatives stood to speak. The Zilani needed help with their irradiated continents. The Morphean Union had 3 worlds where nothing could grow. The Gentle Coalition had lost 5 planets to ecological collapse. "One at a time, please," Moonji said, raising her hand. Humanity and the Velathi have established the Restoration Corps to coordinate these efforts. Every request will be considered. Trade Representative Young Ho worked around the clock to manage the flood of formal applications for restoration assistance. His small office on Harmony Point became the most important location in the galaxy. "We have 237 official requests," he reported to Moon-ji during their daily briefing. 17 more came in just today. The demand is overwhelming. "What about resources?" Moon-ji asked. "Can we actually help this many worlds?" "The Velati have identified 43 planets where heartstones are growing naturally," Young-ho replied. "With careful management, we can produce enough bioresonance arrays to handle maybe 50 major restoration projects simultaneously." The first test case beyond Velthara was the Thekri homeworld of Aquanus. The ocean planet had been beautiful once, but centuries of industrial waste had turned its seas into acid baths that killed everything they touched. Chief Engineer Go Yoon led a joint task force to Aquanus. The challenge was different from Velthara because the damage was older, and the ecosystem was entirely aquatic. "We'll need to modify the bioresonance arrays for underwater deployment," she explained to the Thekri leadership. "The heartstones will work, but we need to understand your ocean chemistry first." Marine specialist Kim Hae worked with Thekri scientists to map the ocean currents and pollution patterns. The data showed contamination extending to the ocean floor across entire continental shelves. "The damage is extensive but not irreversible," Kim Hae reported. "We can clean the oceans, but it will take 3 years and require 40 large heartstones." The Thekri Council agreed immediately. They had been watching their world die for generations. 3 years seemed like nothing compared to the centuries they had waited for hope. The Aquanus restoration became a model for other projects. Teams of human engineers and Velathi life-shapers worked with local species to understand each world's unique needs. Xenoarchaeologist Ryu San made a discovery that changed everything while studying ancient Velathi texts in the restored archives of Velthara. Deep in the oldest records, she found references to an ancient prophecy. "Listen to this," she told Thylos as they worked in the Crystal Library. "It says star friends will come from far worlds, and their grateful hearts will heal the songs of many planets." Thylos felt his 2 hearts beating faster as he heard the ancient words. "My grandmother sang me this prophecy as a youngling. We thought it was just a story about the old gods. But it describes exactly what's happening," Ryusan insisted. "Humans came from far stars. We helped you, you helped us, and now together we're healing planets across the galaxy." The discovery that humans might be fulfilling an ancient Velathi prophecy created a sensation in both species. Religious scholars and scientists debated the implications for months. "Maybe it's coincidence," suggested Dr. Kang Wu during a scientific conference. "Or maybe compassion and cooperation are universal principles that all intelligent life eventually discovers." But the Velathi began treating humans with even greater reverence. To them, humans had become the star friends of ancient legend, beings destined to help heal the galaxy. Meanwhile, an unexpected development was occurring in Corvin space. The empire that had destroyed Velthara and dozens of other worlds was facing internal problems. Ambassador Corvin Thax arrived at Harmony Point, requesting a private meeting with Ambassador Moon-ji. The reptilian being's scales were dull with stress, and his usual arrogant manner was replaced by nervous uncertainty. "My empire is dying," he admitted through the translator. "We strip-mined our own worlds for resources to fuel conquest. Now our home planets are poisoned wastelands. Our people are sick and angry." Moon-ji listened without judgment. "What do you want from us?" "Help," Corvin Thax said simply. "We know we have no right to ask. We destroyed worlds, enslaved populations, caused suffering across the galaxy. But our children are dying from the poisons we created." The request created heated debate among human and Velathi leaders. Many argued that the Corvin deserved to suffer the consequences of their actions. But Elder Vex, speaking for the Velathi Council, surprised everyone with his response. "Revenge heals nothing," he said at the joint leadership meeting. "If we have the power to save lives, we must use it. Even Corvin children deserve to breathe clean air." The decision to help the Corvin Empire marked a turning point in galactic politics. The Restoration Corps would assist any world that needed help regardless of past actions. "We're not just healing planets," Moonji announced to the Galactic Council. "We're healing the relationships between species. Environmental restoration leads to social restoration." The first Corvin world to receive help was their capital, Corvin Prime. The planet that had been the center of galactic oppression for centuries was a toxic wasteland, where even the rulers lived in sealed habitats. Engineer Park Sun led the restoration team with mixed feelings. "It's hard to help people who caused so much suffering," she admitted to her crew. But when they saw Corvin children playing in the first clean rain their planet had experienced in 50 years, the human engineers understood why they were there. "Children don't choose their parents' crimes," observed Medical Officer Dr. Choi Young. "These younglings deserve a chance at a healthy life." The success of the Corvin restoration had profound effects throughout their empire. Worlds that had been ruled through fear and oppression saw their leaders working alongside former enemies to heal environmental damage. "Revolution comes not through weapons, but through hope," reported journalist An Su from the Corvin frontier. "Planets are declaring independence from the Empire not to fight, but to join the Restoration Corps." By the end of the year, 47 worlds had been fully restored, with dozens more projects underway. The Restoration Corps had grown from a small human-Velathi partnership into the galaxy's largest cooperative organization. Trade Representative Jung Ho established resource-sharing agreements that benefited everyone involved. Worlds provided materials and labor for restoration projects in exchange for bioresonance technology and heartstone cultivation techniques. "We've created a galactic economy based on healing instead of exploitation," he reported proudly to Earth's government. "Every species that participates becomes stronger and more prosperous." The ripples of restoration were spreading far beyond environmental repair. Diplomatic relations improved as former enemies worked together on shared projects. Scientific knowledge flowed freely between species. Cultural exchange flourished as beings learned to respect differences. Most importantly, a new generation was growing up across the galaxy. Young beings of every species learned to work together, to value cooperation over competition, and to see environmental health as essential to galactic peace. Ambassador Moon Ji stood before the Galactic Council at the year-end session, looking out at representatives from over 300 worlds. "1 year ago, this chamber was filled with suspicion and fear," she said. "Today I see partners and friends. We have learned that helping others is the best way to help ourselves, and that gratitude shared between species can indeed remake planets." The applause that followed echoed through the station and was broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy, all of them living in cleaner, healthier worlds, because two species had chosen friendship over fear. 25 years had passed since Commander Li Jun first heard the distress call of the Velathi refugees. Now Fleet Admiral Li Jun stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, the massive space installation that served as headquarters for the Galactic Restoration Initiative. The station was itself a marvel of cooperation. Human engineering had created the basic structure, but Velathi bioarchitects had grown living corridors that filtered air and recycled waste. Corvin metallurgists had provided alloys stronger than anything known before. Thekri artists had designed water features that sang with subsonic harmonies. "Admiral, we're ready for the dedication ceremony," announced his aide, Captain Park Yan. She had grown up on New Veltara and spoke both human and Velathi languages fluently. Through the transparent aluminum windows, June could see the fruits of a quarter-century's work. Over 200 worlds sparkled like jewels against the darkness of space, each one restored to health and beauty through the partnership between species. The main auditorium held representatives from 412 different worlds. Beings of every imaginable shape, size, and color filled the vast space. The universal translators worked constantly to convert dozens of languages into coherent conversation. Director Park Mina, now elderly but still passionate about her work, made her way to the podium with the help of a walking stick grown from Velathi heartwood. She had led the Restoration Corps through its greatest challenges and successes. 25 years ago, we thought we were just saving some refugees," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the auditorium's acoustics. We had no idea we were starting a movement that would transform the galaxy. The first speaker was Elder Thylos, now the oldest living Velothi and considered the wisest being in known space. His golden eyes had grown dim with age, but his voice remained strong. "When my people fled our dying world, we thought we had lost everything," he said. "We learned that losing everything can be the beginning of gaining something greater. We lost one world but helped to heal hundreds." Young beings from dozens of species served as the ceremony's honor guard. Human cadet Jang Bo stood beside Velothi student Yith, both wearing the green uniforms of the Restoration Corps Academy. "These young ones have never known a galaxy without cooperation," observed Corvin Ambassador Thax, whose own scales had grown bright with health since his world's restoration. To them, helping other species is as natural as breathing. The ceremony's highlight was the presentation of the Galactic Service Awards to individuals who had made extraordinary contributions to the restoration effort. Chief Engineer Go Yoon, now Director of Restoration Technology, received recognition for developing bioresonance arrays that could heal entire star systems. Her innovations had made it possible to restore gas giant atmospheres and repair damaged stellar radiation. "We learned that technology is only as good as the hearts that guide it," she said in her acceptance speech. The real breakthrough was learning to work together. Dr. Kang Wu received the Scientific Achievement Award for his discovery of quantum bioresonance, which allowed heartstones to be cultivated on any world. This breakthrough had eliminated the resource shortage that once limited restoration projects. "The universe wants to be alive," he explained to the audience. "We just learned how to listen to that desire and help it along." The most emotional moment came when former Corvin General Vex Thok received the Reconciliation Award. He had led the destruction of 17 worlds before experiencing a change of heart and dedicating his life to restoration work. "I spent 30 years destroying worlds," he said, his reptilian voice thick with emotion. "I will spend whatever time remains to me growing them back to life. No one is beyond redemption if they truly commit to healing." But the ceremony's most important announcement came from Director Park Mina herself. The Restoration Corps had achieved its ultimate goal. "As of today, every world that has requested restoration assistance has been helped," she announced. "After 25 years of work, there are no more dying planets on our waiting list." The auditorium erupted in celebration. Beings of hundreds of species embraced, sang, and expressed joy in their own cultural ways. The achievement seemed impossible, but the evidence was visible through every window. Later that evening, a smaller group gathered in the station's memorial garden. This quiet space honored those who had died making restoration possible, including many Corvin soldiers who had given their lives protecting restoration workers from extremist groups. Fleet Admiral Lee Jun spoke to the gathered veterans and their families. "We remember not just those who died, but how they lived. They chose to heal instead of harm, to build instead of destroy, to give instead of take." The garden itself was a living testament to cooperation. Plants from every restored world grew together in impossible harmony, their different biological needs balanced by carefully placed heartstones that sang with gentle energy. Young Cadet Jangbo and student Yith worked together on a new project in the garden's research section. They were developing fourth-generation bioresonance technology that could work on quantum levels, potentially allowing restoration of things that had been thought permanently lost. "Look at this." Yith showed Jangbo their latest readings. "The heartstones are learning to repair damage that happened decades ago. They can restore not just what is, but what was." "Genetic memory restoration," Jangbo breathed in amazement. "We could bring back extinct species, repair lost ecosystems, maybe even heal psychological trauma between species." Their work represented the future of restoration science. The first generation had learned to heal planets. The second had learned to heal relationships. The third had learned to heal entire star systems. The fourth would learn to heal the past itself. In the station's diplomatic quarter, Ambassador Moonji met with the newest applicant for Restoration Corps membership. The Devourers had been the galaxy's most feared species, consuming entire ecosystems to fuel their reproduction. Now they wanted to learn how to give life instead of taking it. "We have been hungry for so long," their representative clicked through. The translator. We thought consuming was the only way to survive. We want to learn to nourish instead of devour. Even the galaxy's former monsters were learning that cooperation brought more satisfaction than conquest. The devourers had discovered that helping ecosystems flourish provided more energy than destroying them. Every species can change, Moonji reflected to her staff after the meeting. We've proven that environment shapes behavior. Heal the environment, and you heal the species that live in it. The station's central command center displayed a real-time map of restoration activity across the galaxy. Green lights marked fully restored worlds. Blue lights showed projects in progress. The entire map glowed with health and life. No red lights, observed Chief Coordinator Kim Min with satisfaction. For the first time in recorded galactic history, no world is dying faster than we can heal it. The achievement was more than environmental. War had become impossible when potential enemies were working together on restoration projects. The Galactic Council had not seen a military conflict in over a decade. Turns out it's hard to shoot at people who are helping your children breathe clean air, joked former General Vex Thok during the evening celebration. As the dedication ceremony concluded, beings from across the galaxy looked toward the future with hope instead of fear. The Restoration Corps Academy was training a new generation of healers from every species. Research stations throughout the galaxy were developing new technologies to perfect the art of planetary restoration. Most importantly, the philosophy of restoration had spread beyond environmental work. Social restoration programs helped damaged communities heal. Cultural restoration efforts preserved traditions that had been lost to war and colonization. Even individual restoration therapy helped beings overcome trauma and find purpose in helping others. We learned the galaxy's greatest secret, Elder Thylos said in his closing remarks. Life wants to live. Intelligence wants to cooperate. Love wants to spread. All we had to do was stop fighting these natural forces and start working with them. As New Harmony Station continued its orbit around the restored world of Haven, the lights of hundreds of civilizations twinkled in the darkness. Each light represented billions of beings living healthier, happier lives because two species had chosen friendship over fear. The age of restoration had begun with a simple act of kindness toward refugees in distress. It had grown into a galactic civilization based on cooperation, healing, and the revolutionary idea that helping others was the best way to help yourself. In the station's youth quarter, children from dozens of species played together, learning each other's languages and customs. They would grow up in a galaxy where differences were celebrated, problems were solved together, and every world was a garden waiting to bloom. The future stretched ahead like an infinite field of possibilities, bright with the promise that no matter how dark things might become, there would always be friends willing to help, hands ready to heal, and hearts grateful enough to remake worlds.